Welcome back to the Rodman Word, and today we are going to be continuing on with the life of Esther, but we're also going to be introduced to Haman. And Haman is definitely the antagonist, the enemy, the villain of the account of Esther. And for good reason. This guy is absolutely just focused on destroying the people of the Jews. But it doesn't start with all the people, it starts with one man, and that is Mordecai. So let us see just the introduction with Haman. So go to Esther chapter 3. Esther chapter 3, we're going to be looking at the whole chapter today. So let's start with verse 1. After these things, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman the Agagite, the son of Hammedatha, and advanced him and set his throne above all the officials who were with him. And all the king's servants, or let's stop there actually, because I do want to talk about this background for Haman. So the Agagite, there you go. The Agagite is, I think, being referenced to King Agag, who we see in 1 Samuel chapter 15. And Agag is not a king of the Agagites, but he's the king of the Amalekites. And so I think most likely what this is getting at is that Haman is an Amalekite, but he is very much a to be remembered with the king Agag. And what's interesting is that the king that was supposed to conquer King Agag was a man named Saul, and he was the son of Kish. Well, who is in the line of Kish and in the line of the tribe of Benjamin? Not just King Saul, but Mordecai. And so I think after seeing a little bit more about Mordecai at the end of chapter 2, it makes sense where we see this introduction of Haman, not just him being on the scene, but the fact that he is in the line of Amalek, that he is an Amalekite, but then he is very much being connected to the person of King Agag, which Saul, the son of Kish, should have taken out, did not take out, and Samuel had to rebuke him, and that really started the fall for King Saul, or really brought it to its head, to be honest. Because then in 1 Samuel chapter 16, we see King David's anointing, and then in 1 Samuel chapter 17, we see David and Goliath. So, but here you are to think, okay, this man is not only going to be an enemy of the Jews because of his connection to Agag, but he's also going to be brought down by by somebody of Jewish background, which is Queen Esther. And so I think you're already starting to see these connections at just the first verse, the first mention of Haman and bringing him on the set. Now, again, we aren't told what he did or how he got to his place, how he was able to advance so quickly. We're not sure, but all we know is he is an advisor to the king and quickly rising up in that world as well. Verse 2. And all the king's servants who were at the king's gate, again, the probably the entrance to the palace, as we saw with Mordecai last time. They paid homage to Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai did not bow down or pay homage. So, a couple things here. We're also not really told why homage is to be paid to Haman. Yes, obviously there is homage to be paid to the king because of the office of the king, the position of the king. But for Haman, we don't know his position, and we don't know what he's done to be given this homage. But clearly he has done something, and clearly he has a very high title in order for the king to be to give him this authority, to give him this level of honor, and a lot do it, but Mordecai does not. Now, the question is, why does Mordecai not give homage to Haman? Because he clearly does respect King Ahasuerus. He may not agree with him, he may not agree with everything that he does or says, but he clearly has a respect for his position because, well, he saved his life, as we saw at the end of chapter 2. So clearly, Mordecai does pay homage, but not to Haman. Why is that? Again, we're not sure what he does, but there could have been a law that he passed that made Mordecai upset. There could have been an interaction with another Jew that Haman had that made Mordecai upset. There could be those things, but I think again it is to try to paint the picture that Haman is the antagonist of this passage, and especially with his background as an Amalekite and his connection to King Agag, you're again supposed to go, okay, this guy is not a good egg. He is going to bring something to the table that will threaten the people, the Jews, which Haman does in this chapter. Verse 3. Then the king's servants who were at the king's gate said to Mordecai, why do you transgress the king's command? And when they spoke to him day after day, and he would not listen to them, they told Haman in order to see whether Mordecai's words would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew. And when Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow down or pay homage to him, Haman was filled with fury. But he disdained to lay hands on Mordecai alone. So as they had made known to him the people of Mordecai, Haman sought to destroy all the Jews, the people of Mordecai, throughout the whole kingdom of King Ahasuerus. So you have Mordecai's lineage be known, whether he told them uh, whether he told Haman that or he told a guard that, it is clear that that Mordecai does say that he is a Jew. Thankfully, they do not make a connection with him coming so often to the palace to check on Esther. Maybe Esther is a Jew. They don't make that connection, thankfully. But they do. Yeah, Mordecai says that he is a Jew. Haman then blows this out of proportion, and instead of going after Mordecai and imprisoning him or executing him on the spot, which eventually he is planning to execute him, as we'll see later, no, he decides, no, I want all of his people gone. And it's just this very over dramatic response from Haman. But again, it's not out of the realm of possibility because, especially when you give folks that really do want power, when you give them power, it is very, very hard for them to give, not only give that up, but to be, how do I put it? It's almost like Haman is he's definitely egotistical, but it's also very true that he is a narcissist. If people are not giving him the level of honor and respect that he thinks that he is due, then he just goes off, and he definitely does that. Verse 7. In the first month, which is the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast pur, that is, they cast lots, before Haman day after day, and they cast it month after month until the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. Then Haman said to King Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from those of every other people, and they do not keep the king's laws, so that it is not to the king's profit to tolerate them. If it please the king, let it be decreed that they be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who have charge of the king's business, that they may put it into the king's treasuries. Couple things here. First off, it is very well crafted, this decree by Haman and this request by Haman to the king. He is obviously talking about Mordecai specifically, or he's thinking about Mordecai specifically, but then he lumps in the whole entire people of Mordecai into the offense of Mordecai. There is a people scattered abroad and dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from those of every other people, and they do not keep the king's laws, so that it is not to the king's profit to tolerate them. That last part of verse 8 is directly what we see in verses 1 through 6, with the interaction between Mordecai and Haman. He is tired of Mordecai not giving him what Haman believes he deserves, what Haman believes Haman deserves. There you go. And so he pulls up this decree, and he is offering him, Haman, I will pay for it. And it's a massive amount. So 10,000 talents. Again, a talent most likely is about 75 pounds worth of silver. And so 75 pounds times 10,000, that's a massive amount of money that Haman is willing to put into the hands of those who have charge of the king's business. And yes, again, silver in this day is not as valuable as it would be later on in history, but still, it is a massive amount of business. It is a massive thing that Haman puts to the table, and well, the king caves. He gives in to this decree. Verse 10. So the king took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman the Agagite, the son of Hammedatha, the enemy of the Jews. And the king said to Haman, the money is given to you, the people also, to do with them as it seems good to you. So not only is the king signing off on this, but he's giving his own authority to Haman and basically saying, look, yeah, I sign off on doing this, but I'm giving you authority to do this. It's really a step up for Haman, and as we see with laws of the Medes and Persians, this is a very, very concerning and troubling thing that the king has done, and that Haman is about to do. As we'll see later on, this is absolutely a troubling thing. But Esther comes in and saves the day in a way that is interesting. So we will get to that later, though. Verse 12. Then the king's scribes were summoned on the 13th day of the first month, and an edict, according to all that Haman commanded, was written to the king's satraps and to the governors over all the provinces and to the officials of all the peoples, to every province in its own script and every people in its own language. It was written in the name of King Ahasuerus and sealed with the king's signet ring, again giving his authority. Letters were sent by couriers to all the king's provinces with instruction to destroy, to kill, and to annihilate all Jews, young and old, women and children, in one day, the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, and to plunder their goods. Again, this is the 13th day of the first month, and it's talking about the 13th day of the 12th month. So it's about 11 months time span. A copy of the document was to be issued as a decree in every province by proclamation to all the peoples to be ready for that day. The couriers went out hurriedly by order of the king, and the decree was issued in Susa, the citadel. And the king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Susa was thrown into confusion. So, a couple things about this. Basically, it is done. The documents are done. The work itself, the deception behind it by Haman has been fulfilled. Now it's going to take 11 months until that day actually comes. You have to go through weapons. You have to go through putting people where you want them, whether it's soldiers or officials. So there's still a lot of work to do, which again is good because that means that Esther has time to put into plan the rescue mission for the Jews. But what's really interesting to me is that last phrase in verse 15. But the city of Susa was thrown into confusion. Now, why is this? Is it because the decree is not specific? No, the decree is very specific. It's very clear what is to happen. The reason why there's probably confusion is because this probably has not been done before with a people group that has been brought into the country. Obviously, with a people group outside the country that you're conquering, that's just a part of war. But this is a group of people that has been brought in through exile, through war. They've been brought into the country and have become a part of this empire, the Medes and Persians. However, in Susa specifically, I think there's confusion because they probably have seen the work ethic of the Jews. They've probably seen where they have done work and probably have made connections with them, relationships with them, friendships with them, and they're probably thrown into confusion for that reason. It's like, wait a second, why? Why are we supposed to kill all these people? It doesn't make a lot of sense. It also, are there any accounts of a broad amount of Jews going against King Ahasuerus and his reign at this point, knowing that earlier on in verse 7, it's the 12th year of King Ahasuerus? Is there any sort of Jewish uprising in those 12 years? According to what we see here, no. It's just the act of one man, Mordecai, against another man, Haman, that has upset that man, Haman, that is now causing this conflict. And so for that, it seems very much, again, over dramatic and taken out of proportion by Haman. However, what is done according to the Medes and the Persian law. And so, therefore, Esther is very much needed to step in and to help her people, and she will. So, with that, that is where we will turn next week as we see how Esther will help. But I think for the biggest thing for me as we close this is that for me, obviously, Haman has the background. He is shown to be somebody that is the enemy of this account, of this passage. It makes sense why he blows this out portion. But clearly, we as believers are to take from this, if somebody does not do what you think they should do, even if you are in a position that is technically over them, like at work, for instance, if you are in a position of leadership at your current job and somebody does not do something right away, don't don't lie. Don't get me wrong. Don't like let them just get away with it. Like talk to them, say, hey, look, I asked you to do something. But just to go and say, yup, you're done, or to blow them off completely, that is not the way that we should be. That we should be connecting with people. That we should be treating those around us. And that is clearly in contrast to Haman, that not only goes after Mordecai, but all of his people. And so for me, we definitely see an over dramatic response from Haman that is founded upon anger and founded upon hate, not just for Mordecai, but for all of those that are in the people of Mordecai as well. So, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed just our walkthrough of Esther chapter 3 today, and I will see you next week as we see the beginning of Esther's recovery plan for her very own people in Esther chapter 4. So, I will see you then. Thanks.